There's several scenes in this where crowds become pretty scary, and the claustrophobia of what a crowd does, even when you're just in a car, because Ray has one of the few working cars around. But it was frightening for the actors because we were actually going 10 miles an hour through crowds, and they were beating on the windows and taking their rucksacks or knapsacks and hitting the sides of the car, and they were screaming into the windows and begging for a ride, and Ray couldn't open the doors because he knew his family would be overwhelmed, and they would be just either driven out of the car or suffocated with the mass of people who wanted to get into that car and get away from the danger. And so those were some of the scarier scenes for me, and I think for the actors to be involved in.
Are you okay?
There you go. For me, it really came alive when we got inside. Throwing the rock and breaking the windshield, all those little things took some doing. And then it's the people beating up Tom and getting shot, and it's an interesting fight. It wasn't your usual run-of-the-mill throwing big haymaker punches and knocking people down and everything else. It was more your realistic grabbing and pushing and shoving and more barroom type fighting. And in amongst that, we've got Dakota in the car and people diving through the window. Tom played the emotions perfectly. His priority with his kids. Take everything, just give me the kids. And still anger. It's a great little sequence, I think.
Go!
It's hysteria. There's so many extras screaming and freaking out. I mean, in a way, it becomes not acting, and you're just like showing up and going, what the hell is going on? And it is scary stuff.
Get a moment, see, guys. Keep the energy up.
As challenging as the production was, there's tremendous joy in making this movie. Working with Steve and Kathleen, Janusz, all of us together. Everyone had to bring it, and everyone rose to the occasion.
Oh, man, we got it.
Nice.
Right.
It's a wrap!
And Maria.
I know, we know.
Well, we have been taken up into the tripod's basket, and whenever the red light comes on, that means that the probe is going to come down and take somebody else up to do something. I'm not going to tell. So every time the red light comes on, everybody's like, ah, screaming.
The big underbelly of one of the tribes, they made full size on the soundstage, and the thing must have been like 50 or 80 feet long and 40 feet wide with these two giant baskets underneath that had people inside them. 20 people in each of these things. It's just unbelievably spectacular.
It was the only science fiction set with the cages, and it's the closest they ever get to one of these things. And you don't want to get much closer than that. But that was interesting to do, because I walked onto the set and I said, the whole film could have been like this. I could have made a real science fiction movie. This whole story could have been taking place on the planet that the aggressors come from. I mean, I could have gone full sci-fi with this. It did get me thinking, gee, someday it would be fun to do a real true sci-fi film where nothing is relatable to the world that we know. I've never made a movie like that before where everything is foreign. But I've always had a kind of yen to go off and make a movie where the production design is totally otherworldly and there's nothing like Earth anywhere in the design. Maybe that'll be my musical. I can combine two of these wishes together. Gee, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do that.
One of the original images from the book was that, these war machines had these baskets that they, carried people around. The design challenge here was to design a device that could serve the same purpose and yet still update it so that technology looked alien enough and not just be simple baskets. So we came up with this idea that there were these pods that were large enough to hold, 20 people or so, but the technology was such that it moved and opened in a very unusual way. And of course, how do they get inside the machine? And it was one of those wonderful moments where, you could design a door. It could be a straight mechanical door. But I think at this point, we were playing around with the idea that perhaps these machines could be organic or they could be machines. Let's, keep that vague. And so the decision was made that it should be an organic, looking thing, but it can also be a very sophisticated mechanical device. And I think it worked out brilliantly because ultimately then it turns it into a creature. The people are being sucked into this orifice, which could be, a mouth or something. So I think it added to the drama of, this is a really unusual machine. This is an unusual door, and I don't want to go in there.
It's a great sequence. I think it's very dramatic. And again, Stephen did some beautiful shots to sell the whole story. And it's very scary. Who's to be the next one to get picked out for the sacrifice, if you like? But it wasn't tough to do. Everything was well thought out. The art department, Doug Meerdink, and Rick Carter and all his boys. Anything we asked for was accommodated. The rigging grips had put ladders in and all sorts of stuff. It was great.
I got to find a place to put the camera where I can actually follow you over here, maybe. And here you are, and you're finally reunited with her. Maybe you can take her with you and just throw yourself back out of frame. Because it'll be pretty close. If I put my head in this thing, they're not going to start this up, are they?
And what it gave Stephen was the opportunity to shoot Tom and a lot of the other actors within these baskets doing what they needed to do for their medium shots and close shots.
It's better if you guys work the center for the camera, because I want to be honest. Yeah. I want to be able to be over Tom to Rachel, she's catatonic, and the same shot come around to Tom's reaction.
Okay,
to his face. So it's like this.
And then when you get back and looking at it from a distance, then we come in with our special effects tripods, with our little special effects people in them and everything, and our landscapes to make them look like they're actually 150 feet in the air. I found that in all the films I've done over the years, whoever I'm working with, whether it's Tom Cruise or the Star Wars actors or any of the other great folks I work with, these guys don't need much help in imagining what's there.
See ya, Tom.
The belt! Give me the belt!
George, go. Cut. Good.
How's that one?
That was the best one. The best recognition. Best everything. Let's do the next shot.
It's a piece of cake for them. They seem to do it all the time. I mean, that's what they are. They're actors.
When I got through with the baskets scene over at Sony, I was real happy the whole film was not going to feel like that one scene, which was real horror sci-fi sequence. And I was real happy the whole film wasn't that way. It was hard enough, it was dark enough, just shooting that one sequence. And it made my skin crawl. And I just wanted to get that over with and get on with it.
Right. And cut.
Some of the scenes that would normally have been shot on the East Coast, we had to bring back to California for time reasons. One of those scenes is the second half of our night filming out at what was the Virginia farmhouse at the Big Hill. Once the tanks and everything come into play, we actually staged it all out in Mystery Mesa, just north of Los Angeles, because it was an area that we could film at night and do all the pyrotechnics that we needed to do. And logistically, it was a lot simpler than trying to shoot all of that in the middle of December in Virginia.